Hey everybody, I'm Monte Cook. I'm just opening up Black Cube here for the first time, Invisible Sun, and I thought I would show off something that I have been wanting to show off since I was first starting to think about Invisible Sun, and that's the way that the Vance spell cards work. Vance is one of the orders of the game. A character can choose to be a Vance spellcaster if he wants to be. And every Vance will have this sheet in front of him. And what this diagram, it explains how Vance spellcasting works right here. But the important part is this cool little square diagram. Now, when the Vance character starts out, he or she has the ability called Mind of the Postulant. You're just starting out. And so this smallest square represents sort of the maximum capacity of spells that you can store in your mind. And so we have all the Vance cards, all the Vance spells are on cards, and they're all appropriately sized. So see what I mean here. So a Vance might start out with what are called alpha spells. Those are the smallest ones, the lowest level, the easiest to cast, easiest to prepare, or beta. And so if these are the spells that the Vance knows, this is the diagram of his mind, or her mind, the Mind of the Postulant. They can choose to prepare just one beta, which fits into the square and takes up the entirety of their mental capacity. In this case, it would be a spell called Abra's Physique, which basically makes a person that you touch tougher and hardier. Or, for example, you could have two alpha spells, right? Because they take up exactly the same amount of space. So there's no bookkeeping or number crunching or anything to keep track of what spells you can do. It's all done sort of like by puzzle pieces. So for example, our Vance might have Eyes of the Overworld, which allows you to see invisible things very, very briefly, and Beulah's Lamp, which creates magical light. So you could have those two, or you could have Abra's Physique. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. As the Vance grows in power and knowledge and skill, suddenly they get access to what's called Mind of the Magister. And that's this middle diagram. Now you can see the way this works, right? Now they can have Abra's Physique and Beulah's Lamp and Eyes of the Overlord all prepared and have access to those at the same time. Or we can have two beta spells, right? So Abra's Physique and Athrosol's Vaporous Coercion, right? Now, you could have those two, or our Vance might learn a Gamma spell, which in this case is Canyons of Static, and that takes up, once again, the entirety of our Vance's mind, because it's such a powerful spell. It basically scrambles the thoughts of everyone within long range, and thinking beings can take no action. It's very, very powerful. But of course, when the Vance reaches the apex, when the Vance becomes as powerful as the Vance can be, you get Mind of the Magus, and that is the biggest square. You see where this is going. Now we can have Canyons of Static and Carco's Bound Thought. Or we can have Canyons of Static and those two beta spells. Or Canyons of Static, Abra's Physique, the beta spell, and two alpha spells. Back to Beulah's Lamp and Eyes of the Overlord. So you can have all of those spells, every spell that we've talked about so far, all prepared at once. Or you get to pull out one of the Omega spells. Barros Aggressive Dot. It conjures this magical dot that basically destroys anything it touches. Super powerful, level 10 spell, and but of course it takes up the entirety of your mental capacity, all with one spell. This is sort of a vision that I've had for how one of the many types of spellcasters in Invisible Sun could possibly interact with spells in a completely different way than everyone else does. I'm very excited about this, and this is actually the first time that I have personally laid eyes on all of this as a finished product, something that we can actually use at the table instead of, kind of doing it piecemeal, where we've drawn things up and made our own scratch-built pieces. So this is very exciting. I'm very excited for you to get a chance to play around with this And once again, this is just one of the types of characters in the game. Everyone uses magic differently in this game, and this is just the Vance.